bit of a mess, if you will. They seemingly aren't really capable of spending, but they definitely need some reinforcements in the squad. Jean Cajuste, who's from Napoli, his deal to Brentford collapsed. An option to replace Onana, Pete? Or are there some other ones that you like in midfield for Everton?
He's an option that's not going to be available because he's very close to joining Ipswich Town. Cajuste, obviously he had that move to Brentford fall down at the 11th hour, which came as a shock to the player himself. But yeah, now it looks like Ipswich are in the box seat to sign Cajuste, and that's one midfield target off the list for Everton. And looks like another one is off the list as well, with Calvin Phillips on the verge of a move to Ipswich Town as well. He was a priority target for Sean Dyche and Everton in the summer transfer window, but it looks like Kieran McKenna at Ipswich has beaten them to the punch for Calvin Phillips as well. So it's obviously a midfielder is an area of the team that Everton need to strengthen in. Obviously they had to sell Onana for PSR, FFP regulations. They got good money for him, but as you said, probably money is going to be tight for Sean Dyche in these last couple of weeks of the window. Probably be looking at loan deals, and I'm sure they're scouring the market right now to see who they potentially could bring in to help strengthen their midfield. But it's not going to get any easier as we get closer to the end of the window, and as I said, it looks like they missed out on a couple of targets already.
And Paul, what do you think of players like Weston McKennie or Arthur Melo, those who have somewhat tried their ability in the Premier League, didn't necessarily go to plan, but as players that Everton are potentially linked to for the central midfield role?
Well, Arthur, as we know, had the loan at Liverpool. That didn't go down too well for him, did it, in the 22-23 season? Didn't play many, if any, games. Last season on loan at Fiorentina. Had a decent 4 years at Juve. 2018 to 20 at Barcelona. He's got a decent CV, but not done it in recent times. I can't see these been Sean Dyche type players. Weston McKennie certainly not. I mean, you saw what his time at Leeds United. He came during the January transfer window. He wasn't fit, wasn't match fit, didn't look sharp on the pitch, and I think even he openly says it was probably one of the worst times of his career, his time at Leeds United. And I think his performance on the pitch, I mean, yeah, obviously these players have had different careers elsewhere, and that they will be tracked and scouted during the time at other teams. But I think the thing that will stick out for Sean Dyche is, regarding Melo and Weston McKennie, is their time in England and their time in the Premiership and how it didn't work for them. I know Sean's got a really good reputation of making bad good, if you like, or making the best of what he's got with certain players. But with these two players, I don't think he can afford to carry passengers, and they're not two players you could bring in and rely immediately on.
Most definitely. And Pete, you talk about Everton need to potentially loan a player if they're going to bring someone in. Arsenal seemingly are willing to do a loan with obligation to buy for Eddie Nketiah, whose deal to Marseille fell apart. Now Bournemouth has signed Evan Nielsen. Eddie Nketiah certainly on the block. Everton certainly interested in the player. Could you actually see a deal getting struck here, or it's just too much of a difference in price?
Yeah, obviously Arsenal in an ideal world would sell Eddie Nketiah because they are looking to raise some funds of their own to allow them to go and pursue a deal for Mikel Merino. As you said, Eddie Nketiah has had the disappointment of seeing a potential move to Marseille fall down, and it does seem that Bournemouth have now looked elsewhere as they want to bring in a striker to replace Dominic Solanke. So the options are getting more and more limited for Eddie Nketiah right now. As I said, I think there'll be some clubs in the Premier League who will be looking at him. Everton, I'm sure, will be looking at him. There's been talk that maybe Crystal Palace and Wolves could be interested in the forward as well. If Everton could get a loan deal for Eddie Nketiah, I'm sure it's something that Sean Dyche would look at. He's had it tough at Arsenal, there's no doubts about that, but he can score goals, I think, if he is getting regular minutes and gets the right service. Whether he'd be the right fit for Everton, that would be up to Sean Dyche and the rest of the coaching staff at Goodison Park as well. And a lot will depend on what happens with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If he is to remain at the club, maybe the need for a new striker is not vital. I think Sean Dyche wants to bring in that midfielder and probably another winger, but he might have to act and be reactive in the last few weeks of the window. If a Dominic Calvert-Lewin or a Beto or a Neil Maupay was to leave, that would definitely mean a striker would be required to sort of strengthen them up front.
Paul, I see you shaking your head no. Eddie Nketiah, not the right striker for Sean Dyche?
Just don't think he's the right fit. Don't think he's the right fit for Sean in the way that they play. His size and stature, we know he's a short, quick striker, fox in the box type striker, and the way that Everton play, they like a figurehead of number 9. Sometimes you can call it direct, you can call it long passes, but they like to play into the front man. And I'm not so sure his hold-up play or his play with his back to goal is the type of player that Sean would look for. You look at what he's got there, Calvert-Lewin, you look at Beto, you look at Maupay, other strikers that he's got, and then you look at the strikers that he's had in the past at Burnley, the likes of Ashley Barnes, Chris Wood, Sam Vokes. He likes that number 9, you know, the figurehead, the target man. And Eddie Nketiah isn't that. And I just think his profile and his stature as a player, I just don't think it fits the mould of a striker that Sean would want to sign.